Here we are, Real Recovery Talk. I am your host, Tom Conrad. In today's episode, we've got
Benjamin B. Oh, I thought I was supposed to introduce myself now.
Yeah,
Oh,
sorry, Benjamin B. And we also have somebody here to my left or your right, or you don't see him at all because you're listening on the podcast app. Billy. What's up, Billy?
What's going on, guys?
First things first, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening on podcast app, Stitcher, Spotify, SoundCloud, Google Play Music, and whatever other podcast players are out there. Thank you for listening. Leave us some sort of review. And if you are watching on YouTube, thank you for that as well. And in the end, if you would like to reach out to either myself or Ben here, you can always email us, Tom at realrecoverytalk.com and Ben at realrecoverytalk.com. And ultimately, what we would like to do, Ben, is
turn your mess into your message.
That's good. You're getting good at this.
Getting the hang of it.
It took him a while. First time he was like, turn my mess into so
Your message.
all right, so Billy has opted to come on the show, and we've gotten to know Billy over the years, and Ben knows Billy obviously a lot more than I do because you may have heard us talk about Ben is prepping for a bodybuilding show, and here's his coach. This is him in the flesh, Billy, old Billy. And last week's episode, we were talking about what were we talking about, Ben?
Oh, I don't remember either.
We were talking about when people work in treatment, and we used the reference of getting a job in treatment. You know, you need to be in a position to be able to have something to offer people. And I was using the analogy of you could take nutrition advice from somebody like myself who, I know a decent amount about nutrition, not near as much as you.
Yeah.
Or you could take and I told everybody I have a belly. It's no secret. I'm not, the picture. You wouldn't look at me and think he was on like Men's Fitness magazine, Or you could take nutrition advice from Ben. If you have a plan, say, hey, I want to lose 30, 40 pounds. And you just have to choose between me and Ben, who you going to pick? You're going to pick Ben because he lives it, he breathes it, he knows what it's about.
Right.
And Ben has a coach. Now, if you had to choose between all three of us, that would be funny. I would have to go with Billy.
I'd go with Billy too. I did go with
You did go with Billy.
Self-reliance failed me.
But where we were going with that podcast, and it was a good analogy in the sense of where we see people working in treatment that have no business working in treatment.
Yeah, that's pretty common, man.
And it's turned into this thing where it's like, you get 60, 90 days clean, come on over and be a tech for us.
Now, don't get it twisted. This happens in the fitness realm as well. People do one bodybuilding show and all of a sudden they're a coach, or they get in shape one time and all of a sudden they're selling plans to people. And it's like,
well, you see that especially on Instagram.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, look, I understand that people are always like in the pursuit of like wanting to make more money or have a better status, especially in their community. But like, like you were just saying, man, you kind of have to have the credentials first.
Yeah. You have to like actually prove that you know what you're talking
Exactly.
about.
Yeah.
Instagram is the worst when it comes to that stuff.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I mean, you can get sold so much snake oil.
Yeah. Instagram is really easy to project an image that's not reality. It's so easy to do that, especially in the fitness realm, like, especially if you're really good at Photoshop.
Yeah. Yeah. So I want to get into Billy. You're born and raised here in Florida.
Yeah. I was born and raised right here in Deerfield Beach.
That's crazy because the majority of people aren't from.
Oh, I know. Anywhere I go, especially in recovery, I'm like one of two people in the whole room.
Yeah.
Who's like from Florida.
So you got clean at what age?
27.
27. I got clean at 26. And you 26. I got clean at 26, Ben. I know for a fact. September 16th, 2010 is my clean date.
I'm December 8th, 2010.
Oh, so why'd you look at me funny?
Oh, I don't know.
It's like the math isn't mathing.
Yeah.
So we all got clean and sober right around the same age. I want to hear, Billy, from you, like what, give us a little bit of your backstory. You obviously born and raised here. You got clean at 27. Take us back a little bit, like what it was like for you, and then ultimately we'll go from there.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, look, I always share this part when I share my story at meetings too. Like I'm nothing special, like I didn't have any crazy traumas happen to me in my life. I had two wonderful parents. They were middle-class people. We had 2 cars in the driveway. My dad was a homicide detective. My mom was a small business owner. We were like the American dream, right? We had 2 dogs. Like there was literally nothing wrong. Like I hear a lot of stories sometimes and people, they talk about it, they go through these really hard things in life. And like, I just am not one of those people. And I know for me that I was 14 years old. Someone passed me a joint. I hit it. It was the greatest thing that ever happened to me up until that moment. And my brain just changed. It's really it. And from that moment on, I was like, okay, I'm only going to do this on the weekends because, I can't have my parents find out. My dad's a cop. He's going to know. And, all of a sudden it was like a couple years in, I got this bright idea. Why don't I just smoke on Tuesdays? And then why don't I just smoke on Wednesday? Why don't I just smoke every day? And then it kind of became this everyday deal. And for me, it started with the quote unquote innocence of just smoking pot. And, when I look back, I had consequences like really early on that I guess at the time, like if I look back on it now, the consequences weren't crazy, but at the time, they were significant in my life. Like my girlfriend at the time was pissed that I was smoking. My parents were pissed. They were drug testing me pretty constantly. Like that's kind of not normal. That's not normal at all. So I failed to see those sort of warning signs. And I remember when I graduated high school, someone pushed a little blue pill my way, and that little bastard changed everything. And this is back like when the pill mills were humongous down here. This is 2007. So that's when like every corner was slinging pills. And they were cheap. They were easy to get. My habit racked up rather quickly. And I finally found myself in my first treatment center in 2008. And, I went in there just not really buying all this, man. I figured if I could just put the pills down, I'd be okay. I could still drink, I could still smoke. I had like those old ideas that I kind of held on to. And, to cut out a lot of fluff from that moment, I drank and got high all the way till 2016. And I had some intervals of sobriety in there. Some were forced. I spent like a full year in the Broward County Jail from 2012 to 2013. That was not cool. It was probably the first time I had been sober that long and gotten away from the streets from that long to like even know what my personality was. Like I always used to say, like when I was in there, I kind of like discovered who I was because I'd been suppressing myself for so long. And, I had like 3 months here, 4 months there, 3 months here, 4 months there. And it was usually because I was in some sort of treatment center. I was in some sort of mental hospital, some sort of detox. Like I was in this revolving door that we see a lot of people in. And I didn't have health insurance. So I was going to Bark, which I'm sure you guys know what that is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So me, first name basis with the nurses at Bark, it was kind of pathetic. I'd walk in and they just throw their hands up like, what the hell are you doing here again? And I'd be like,
come on in.
I don't know. Yeah. They called me William. It was William. They're like, William, what are you doing? And, I just thought that was all just one big joke, man. And basically I was, as soon as I'd get out and the free air hit my nose, I would just go do what I needed to do. And, what's crazy is even when I got toward the end where I was starting to feel like, I don't really want to do this anymore and I don't want to live this way anymore, that feeling still happened. Like when I left, all that stuff went away. And it was like, as soon as the fresh air hit my nose again, I was off and running. It didn't even matter. There was no fight. It was just automatic.
Why do you think that? Like, you spent, you put together some, sobriety time for whatever reason, whether it's told to you or, the court system. Why? if you were to ask yourself now, like why, as soon as the fresh air hits my nose, I'm off running, what do you think?
Well, I had no solution. I was left with just me, I wasn't going to get myself out of this mess. That was pretty obvious. If I would have got out of it in 2008 when, the shit really hit the fan for the first time for me. I had no solution. So I had no fight. I had no way to combat what was going on. And if you want to go even further, I really didn't even know what the problem was. Like, it was easy to say, like, yeah, man, like I'm a drug addict and I'm an alcoholic, but I didn't even know what that really meant. It wasn't until like I really read the book with somebody who actually knew what they were talking about that I even understood what it meant to be an alcoholic.
For the listeners, what book are you referring to?
The big book. Yeah, the Alcoholics Anonymous big book.
Yeah.
So, if I'm, it's like going into a fight with no weapons. I just didn't know.
We talk about that all the time. It's so easy. Anybody can string together sobriety time.
Yeah.
And I say sobriety time with air quotes because you're not really sober. You just put the plug in the jug, or, whatever saying they have for, heroin addicts. What do they say there? Put the cap on the needle, maybe? Or
Good try. We'll come up with next.
I don't think I heard
come up
that
with
one.
one.
Yeah.
Anybody can put this time together. But what we ask you is what stands between you and picking up again.
No.
And consequences.
Oh, they mean nothing.
They mean nothing.
At least at me, they didn't. Like, I laughed in the face of consequences, no matter how bad they were. Like, I just mentioned that I went to jail for that period of time. Well, I was looking at 30 years. And the judge ended up giving me 1 year, followed by several years of probation. I had all these, special things I had to do. And part of the probation was like, hey, dude, if you violate, you're coming right back. And we're looking at these 30 years again. And I can tell you, man, within 2 weeks of me being released, I was back to sticking needles in my arm. Like the consequences of losing a huge chunk of my life weren't even enough to stop me.
I want to dig into a little bit because you said your dad was a homicide detective.
Yeah.
I have to be led to believe that did that play any sort of role, not so much in your addiction, but, and I could be totally off base here, but having a dad who is a police officer, homicide detective, did he ever get you out of any of the binds that you were in?
Dude.
Or was it the opposite?
No, he was my number one enabler. Like,
okay.
He was the guy. If I was in any trouble whatsoever,
yeah,
I'd just shoot him a call and he was getting me out of it, The amount of times we went to pawn shops to get stuff back, the amount of times that I stole from people and he would give them the money back, like, it was unbelievable, the shit I was pulling. And, I always kind of knew that, like, in the back of my mind, I could just give my dad a call. Honestly, it wasn't until he was like, yo, don't ever come back, that things really changed for me.
Wow.
Yeah.
Again, and there's always common themes with every podcast that we do with guests. It's the word enabling comes up every single time.
Oh, yeah.
And in this situation with your dad being a police officer, I could see how that could fuel somebody's addiction, so much because, especially to the normal person, you would think, okay, jail time that's pretty consequential for some people. And some people land in jail.
Some people love it in there. I saw guys in there who just loved it.
Well, and they're institutionalized.
Yeah.
But some people, like myself, for instance, I've never been to jail. I don't think I'd fare very well.
It sucks, dude.
It might.
It's terrible.
I like thinking that had I ended up in jail, maybe it would have given me an opportunity to get sober. And I do believe for some people, jail is the last stop for them before they do get sober. For somebody in your situation, whose dad is a homicide detective, who's a police officer that can get you out of these scenarios.
Yeah.
And, did he play a role in helping you with the 30-year?
Absolutely. Well, he retired from being a police officer and now he works for the state attorney's office. So, literally the woman who was prosecuting me, he sees every single day.
And you're like, score. Yeah.
But and I'll tell you, like, I will say in that moment, like that was kind of where he started to stand his ground against me a bit. Cause I remember calling him, it was Christmas Day. and I had been there for a couple days because I got arrested December 19th. It was Christmas Day, and I was like, I'm going to manipulate him to bond me out because I had a bond. And man, he picked up on Christmas Day, and he was just like, dude, just stop calling. Please, just stop calling. So I didn't talk to anybody for maybe like 3 months until my mother finally showed up. And then she was like, you know, if you stayed in here a year, it'd be good for you. And I was like so offended. I was like, how dare you say that to me?
Yeah.
How dare you? And it was like a premonition, you know? And then like a month later, I was sentenced. And my dad was at the sentencing. He was sitting in the in like the little witness area or like the watching area. And I could see he was talking with the prosecutor back and forth. So I'm sure he was like, please, you know, I want you to hit him, but don't hit him too hard.
So after that, after you served that year, how long did it take you to get clean after that?
Well, I came up here actually. So I moved up here after I got out. So after I got out, I knew that I had to go check in with probation, and I was like, I'm done for. If I go see this guy, I'm done. So I just kind of left. I didn't really tell him. Technically, I wasn't supposed to leave the county. And I just kind of left and came up here, and I went to treatment. And then I called him from treatment, and I was like, hey, man, just letting you know, I'm up here trying to get help. And surprisingly, he really respected that.
Wow.
So surprisingly, he was like, I appreciate the way you handled this. You know, you didn't try to lie or anything like that. He's like, you still need to come see me though. So when I went and got to see him, he was like, stay there, keep doing what you're doing. So I went to a treatment center up here. I stayed clean for like 9 months, and then I picked up again. I just kind of like stopped going to meetings. You know, the same shit, man. The same shit you hear from everybody. Stopped praying. I didn't have a sponsor anymore. You know, I figured I could move back home. This is a common theme with me. I moved back home, and then I get high again. So I moved back home, boom, instantly got high. Came back up here, stayed clean for 1.5 years. Was living with my sponsor at the time, and I walked in and I saw fentanyl patches on his bed, and he had like 8 years. There was fentanyl patches on his bed. He told me it was because he was in kidney failure, which I think he really was. But when I saw those fentanyl patches, like something in me was just like, I got to go. So I grabbed all my stuff and I left and I moved back home. And I'm sure you can guess what happened when I moved back home.
So you left there with good intentions.
Yeah, I was freaked out. Yeah, because I was like, can't be around this, you know? And moved back home, and man, you know, it's like as soon as I get to Broward County, I just don't know how to act, you know? So I just started doing what I was supposed to do, or wasn't supposed to do, excuse me. And finally in 2016, at the end of 2016, I came back up here, and I was like, I'm just never leaving. And it's been a journey since then, really.
That's crazy. I mean, there's a lot there that we can get into. I do want to talk a little bit about kind of what has happened since, you know, obviously we all have war stories. We could tell stories for days about what landed us and what when we finally decided to get sober. But, you know, so when after 2016 and you got clean, like what was the prescription, I suppose? Like what was it that finally you started realizing, okay, I'm gaining traction here. This is something that's worth. Yeah.
There was a couple moments. One that me and Ben were just talking about. So I was working at this company I still work at now. They knew what I was doing. I was like literally doing it in the parking lot. They have it on camera, doing it in the parking lot. And, my boss, gave me my paycheck, and he was like, you know, go do the right thing, come back to work on Monday. He had known that I'd left to go to treatment and go to detox and all that. So I drove back up here, and I tried to get into this halfway house that I'd always gone to, and they rejected me. They were like, nope, you can't come here no more.
Wow.
You're not welcome here. And I remember getting back in my car, and I stared at this check. It was like $700 or something like that. And I had a moment where I was just like, well, I'm either going to have to really work to find some halfway house to go to, or I'm going to take this $700 and go get high. And I guess you'd call it a God moment, man. for some reason, I called somebody and I was like, hey, I really need a halfway house. And he found me this super, super shitty halfway house that I gave all my money to. And I lived there for a little bit. And that decision, I think, was the first step for me. You know what I mean? As far as like solidifying where my mind was. Because it would have been all too easy to just go do what I needed to do. So I think it started with that. And then, I don't know, my mindset just kind of changed. You know, I was 27, like we talked about. And I remember like scrolling through Facebook and seeing all my friends were like doctors and pharmacists and owned businesses and had kids and had houses. And I didn't have $5 to my name. You know, I was driving in some dilapidated Nissan, living in a halfway house. And I don't know, in that moment, I was just kind of like, if I don't do something about this right now, I'm going to die. And I don't know. It was just, this is what I told myself. And I just met my wife at the time. And we were only together a couple months. And I was like, you know what? I gotta do something, because if I don't, this is the end. I know it.
Mm. Ben, what do you got?
I'm curious as to, you know, you were talking about the thought processes that happened in that $700 check, the God moment. Mm-hmm. What is it that you started doing different? Mm. You know, like, I mean, I know a bit about you, but in my perception, you and Tom are kind of similar in the way you went about it, in my opinion, with like, you mentioned earlier, maybe you can emphasize on it, the 9 a.m. meeting, like that only old men go to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like the people you started surrounding yourself with, the mindset you had, the action that you took.
Yep. So I had been doing that. So that treatment center that I mentioned when I first came up here, they brought us to all those meetings. That's how I even knew about them. So they were big proponents of like, don't be hanging out with your buddies at the halfway house. Don't be hanging around people who are like your age with your amount of time sober. Like, go find people who are way older, who have a lot more time than you, and hang out with them. So I'd kind of been doing that the whole time. But I remember coming back, you know what it was, man? Like, I remember picking up a white chip in that 9 a.m. meeting and feeling so embarrassed. And I was like, man, I don't ever want to feel that way again. You know, I almost felt like I had let the group down, you know, because I was such an integral part of the group, like chairing meetings and, you know, I was just doing stuff, you know, and to be back picking up a white chip, I was like, man, I don't really want to feel that way anymore, you know? And I just kind of threw myself right at the group again, and they were welcoming, of course. But in terms of like what I was doing in AA, actually a whole lot didn't really change. I think it was more so what I was doing outside of AA that really changed. You know, when I look back at that time that I put together, like that 9 months or that 18 months, I was still kind of keeping secrets. I was still kind of doing things that maybe sober guys shouldn't be doing. And I think when I stopped doing all those things and I just became an open book, like you could literally ask me anything about anything and I'll tell you the truth now. That's when it started to change for me.
That's kind of what we were talking about in the last episode too, with being in early recovery. Yeah. You know, like I even mentioned for myself, the first couple of years, I was a jerk.
Yeah.
You know, the keeping the secrets, telling the little lies.
Yeah.
All that stuff matters.
Absolutely.
Big picture, it matters big time.
Absolutely.
You know, and you need that character change. And it honestly, my first 2 years of sobriety were rough. Mm-hmm. Like I had screwed things up so bad, like piecing it back together. I was always stressed out, going off on people. Yeah. I was not pleasant to be around most of the time. And it kind of, over the course of getting to that 2 years, it like tapered off, you know, and I got a little bit better at being part of society and around people and pleasant, but
that's why I always talk to our clients here about like, again, it goes back to anybody can put down the drink and the drug. That's the easy part. Mm. I mean, it's hard, but it's easy, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's the character change. It's the, you know, surrounding yourself with good people, you know, finding people that you can latch onto. Because Ben will tell you, I tell the clients this all the time, like, I don't want you, same thing. Don't get too close to these people.
Yeah.
Because these people ain't going to be here 90 days from
Definitely not.
You know, you need to find the people that because I was the same exact way as you. When I was living in Halfway, I stuck with the old timers, and that's how we know the guy that you're talking about.
Yep.
I remember him back in 2011, and there was him and another guy by the name of Jim Rapp that was. We'd go to breakfast with, I'd go to breakfast with them, and Jim was a retired state cop out in New York, and those are the people that I surrounded myself with. A Saturday morning men's meeting at St. Mark's Episcopal Church.
Yeah, that's where I used to go to.
I was there every Saturday with those guys.
Yep.
I didn't have. Listen, I loved my halfway house brothers.
Yeah,
they
same.
were
We used to
cool.
go to the gym together. Like, it was cool to have that camaraderie at the house. Don't get me wrong, because you need it. But for more like mentally stimulating conversations and like character changing conversations, I needed those old
wisdom.
Guys. Yes,
needed people.
Yes.
Need people with wisdom.
Yes,
that you can want to be like. I suppose it's just there's no. Like what we do here, the three of us in our sobriety journey, it's not some like we're not rewriting the rules or anything.
Yeah.
It's not rocket science. You stop using drugs, you stop drinking, find a solid community of people that stop doing these things, that add value to your life, spend time with them. Don't hang out with the losers. There's plenty of them out there. Do this for a period of time. And if it doesn't work out for you, go hang out with the losers again.
Yeah.
That's the formula.
Yeah.
I think.
And, and something you were saying too is like, it's super easy to like put the drink and the drug down, right? I think it's also super easy to just put your ass in a chair in meetings and not do nothing and like get some buddies who are like your age in AA that you guys go to, the meetings with a couple nights a week. And then that's as far as it ever goes for you.
Right.
It's super easy to do that. And then like in their minds, they're thinking, well, I'm doing AA.
Yeah.
And like, you're not, dude. You're not. If you're not doing the inner work, if you're not doing the steps, and if you're not making the changes outside of AA, you're not doing AA.
There's a big difference between the fellowship and the program. And we talk about all that all the time.
Yeah.
Like you're saying, just hanging out with those people, that's good for you. You want to surround yourself with like-minded people.
Just can't stop there.
Yeah,
it's stale, and that's what we talk about a lot too. Is like your sobriety will get stale, and if you don't do these things, and it's like so. And Billy, you were that person probably in your journey up getting sober and finally having that like reality and going on Facebook and seeing your friends that are achieving things in life, that for whatever reason was a switch for you that needed to be flipped. But prior to that, you were probably one of those people that would go, just plant your ass in a chair, scope out the girls and, dress up, it was, Ben and I always not made fun of Ben, but it was always this thing. He always loved going to, it was called the Dirty 30.
Oh, yeah, the 830s?
Yeah,
of course.
Ben's motive behind going there is because that's where the people need help.
Yes, yeah, for sure. I agree.
And I'm like, and I still struggle with this to this day. Like, and I understand Ben's motives, and his motives are pure. I am the type of person that, like, I understand that there's people there that need help. You can go and help those people. I don't want to surround myself with that, like that hour going there and seeing the girls getting off the druggy buggies that look like they're going to the clubs, the dudes that are, GTL to the, like that whole deal. I'm like, I don't want to be a part of it. You want to go help them? Go for it. So it is a fine balance, because in those types of meetings, you find those people. They just sit there, scrolling Instagram, Snapchatting, TikTok, the whole deal. And you're not going to change that way.
Yeah.
You're just not.
Yeah.
You need both.
You do.
You need that solid foundation, those for us, those older guys with the experience. But then in my opinion, as your sobriety progresses and you're supposed to carry that message, that's where I go looking for
well,
people
and that's
to
me,
help.
Like being transparent. My sobriety isn't where it could be because I don't have any sponsees. And I'm fully capable of admitting that I have no sponsees right now, so I'm not getting the full effect of what the program has to offer.
Right.
And I'll fully admit that. I've had sponsees, and I love being able to take them through the steps and showing them what this is all about. There is a very fulfilling aspect to that, which I'm lacking right now.
Yeah, and for our listeners, like, you know, if you're a loved one and you got a loved one in treatment right now, like, I catch our clients on their heels all the time. I'll ask them in group, like, name 3 people outside of rock that, or the detox that you just went to previously, or the halfway house. Outside of those 3, name some sober supports. They generally can't come up with one single name.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's a problem. And the whole purpose, in my opinion, of treatment is to show people that this is possible. Making connections with other human beings is possible.
Yeah.
But if this is what you're relying on, this small pond, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
You got to start venturing outside of this swimming pool.
Yeah.
Billy, talk to a little bit about, and because I like the direction that this is going. I'm big on community. I'm built on building your network of people, you know, outside of AA, you know, AA kind of being, it gave you a lot of your principles and your morals.
Yes.
And gave you a lot of what you have today. But how has it influenced every other aspect of your life, business-wise, family life, stuff like that?
That's a great question. So I can tell you that the company I work for now, I started, I was a sales rep there. Simple sales rep. And now I run the entire company. And I personally attribute that to the principles that I got from AA. So I took those and I applied them at work. Truly swear to God what I did. And what it resulted in is people, when I would say things, they'd look at me and they'd be like, I can't believe you really think that way. And I'm like, yeah, of course I think that way. You know, because it's so off the beaten path of like, the selfish money grubbingness of business. You know what I mean? Everybody for themselves type deal. And I think that changed my attitude and how I carried myself. And that ultimately led me to success. Because I'll tell you what, like, I had no integrity. I had no brotherly love. I had no honesty. You know, I had no faith. Like, I didn't have any of those things, you know? And then once they were kind of like put into my life through AA, I just started using those things in all those other aspects. And it worked out so well, you know, not only with work, but through my side business that I started, through my relationship with my wife, even in my relationship with my daughter. Like, it changed everything for me, you know, and I now kind of look at like who I am as a person and my character. It all relates back to what I learned in AA. Like, I can relate almost every single decision I make back to some sort of principle in AA. Yeah. It's wild.
Dude, I am so thankful that you just said all that, because literally, what was it, yesterday or the day before, I was sitting down with a young kid that's, you know, questioning whether or not they need to be in treatment. Consequences. Parents are like, dude, you're definitely an addict. And he's like, oh, yeah, I can still handle this kind of thing. But I sat him down and I looked at him. I'm like, dude, you have no idea the opportunity. This is going to make you better at business. Yes. This is going to make, it's like a superpower.
No, it really is, man.
The thought processes that we have as a result of being in recovery, what we're exposed to, but gives us an unfair advantage, hands down. And people don't realize like how much this carries into other aspects of your life. Today, like for me, AA is not like really about, it's not about not drinking,
no,
drugging.
It's not for me either. No,
like at all.
Yeah,
not for Billy either.
No,
you hear that?
Like,
no, has nothing to do with that.
No.
The problem for me is like been removed. Don't get me wrong. Like, I'm just as
fully aware it exists, you know?
Oh, yeah.
But like, I think what you're saying is like the main aspect of my life now is just being a better person. And then through being a better person, I know I won't pick up a drink or a drug again. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
exactly.
Well, and the opportunities that are afforded to us once, and listen, I'm a firm believer too of like, you know, I'm a man of faith, and when I'm given things, you know, through sobriety and opportunities fall in my lap, I'm looked at from a spiritual perspective of how am I going to steward this, you know, and I like to look at things through that lens too of, you know, this whole sobriety thing, you have the mental component, you have the physical component, but we can't deny that there's a spiritual component to this. And for me, when I'm given opportunities and, you know, I steward that opportunity well, another opportunity is going to be put in my path, and I don't know what that opportunity is going to be. Anytime, whether it's financially, relationship wise, stuff like that, which I talked about a lot, I think in a couple podcasts ago, even meeting my wife, I steward a certain period of time well to the point of I'm not going to look for this girl. And because I didn't look for this girl, I wasn't on freaking Tinder or whatever the hell apps that they have. I wasn't doing any of the swiping and stuff like that. I was staying grounded. I knew I had work to do. I was, building, my faith and stuff like that. The opportunity got put in my lap. Here's your wife. Here's the person that you're going to be with. Same goes with, job opportunities and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And those are the things that I try and we all try to tell people that are getting sober. It's not just about stopping the drinking and the drugging, because listen, a lot of people are financially motivated, and I think that's fine.
Yeah.
I think and if that's where you have to start, and I'm thinking of one kid in particular, he couldn't wrap his mind around AA because it was like, oh, he's one of them ones. I'm just going to go sit in the meeting. Just because I have to. And I came from the angle of, listen, man, you're very career oriented. You're very financially driven. Let's just start there. Network with people. Talk to these people before the meeting. Talk to the people after the meeting. You never know who you're going to meet.
Yeah.
And some of the most fruitful relationships that I have financially, business-wise, stuff like that, is a result of AA and just talking to people, building community.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing is that those people, those connections, if you will, they operate on the same principles.
Yeah.
Like, I'm meeting trustworthy people. If I meet a guy who has 10 plus years of sobriety and they own a business, or maybe I want to get into some business.
Yeah, there's like a solid chance they're going to be morally good, Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's very important. I mean, I don't know, it's just crazy because you start seeing things through sober eyes and you have a different perspective on everything. And I think it's cool.
Yeah. And I work with a lot of people who, are not in the program, and I can just see it in their actions. I can see it in the way they handle themselves or the way they handle situations. And I always think to myself, like, how fortunate I am to have gone through AA, because I can see how I would have done the exact same thing that they're doing. But today, if I was put in that situation, I wouldn't have, I would handle it so differently. And it's just so interesting because you really do see things through a completely different lens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to touch on something really quick because I'm picking up on a pattern about what we're discussing. A lot of people are turned away from 12-step programs in general. AA falls under that genre. I walked into AA and I saw the word God all over the place. And I'm like, oh, what's this hocus pocus stuff? I'm supposed to say this prayer.
Yeah.
And then God fixes my addiction, right? And I never want to drink again. But what I'm hearing here is that a lot of this is more driven towards personality change, behavior, how we respond to situations. It's not even so much for me. I love the psychology behind the 12 steps.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I am a spiritual man in nature, but it's that psychology that fascinates me about AA.
Yeah.
Somebody that's new in the program that doesn't know or have, myself, for instance, when I walked into an AA meeting for the very first time, I'm like, what is this?
Oh, do you want to hear a funny story?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay. So the first meeting I ever went to, 2008, was a men's meeting. And my mom had a friend who had 10 years, and she's like, you're going to go. You're going to meet him there. So I walk in. I don't know if you guys know where this meeting is. It's in Boca. It's in a caboose, like a train. No? Okay.
No, I'm surprised I haven't heard.
Yeah. It's right
still
off,
there?
right off Dixie Highway. Yeah. So I remember walking in there, and there's, obviously all men, and I plop my seat right in the back, and, I'm looking around, and they ask, is this anybody's first meeting? So I'm like a dumbass. I raise my hand, and all of a sudden, 5 guys stand up from the front, walk all the way to the back, and sit next to me. And as they're sitting next to me, they're like, Do you want to go get coffee after the meeting? What's your phone number? Here's my phone number. It was like so overwhelming. And immediately my mind was like, are these guys hitting on me right now?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, because I didn't understand, and like I had never met people who were so like genuine and like just really trying to help me. And I was like, man, I was like, everybody in AA gay? Is like, that how this works?
On the caboose.
Yeah, on the caboose.
Yeah.
I remember leaving there, and my dad picked me up. I was like, Dad, I am never coming back to this place. And like when I look back now, I'm like, man, those guys, kudos to them, man. They saw a newcomer and they bolted their ass mid-meeting to come sit next to me and like make me feel welcomed,
It's interesting that you say that, though, because I have a kind of a perspective on that. If it is my first meeting, and I think most young men that's their first meeting, we're going to have the same reaction, and that's where I think sometimes, and listen, I might get hate mail for this. I have no idea. Sometimes the approach with AA is a little off-putting because it is that like idea. When you see a newcomer, it's your responsibility to go and take that person and show them the way. But the problem with this is if there's one newcomer and 10 people, or in this case 5, that all have that same mentality, then you're ambushed. And then it's like, okay, I'm sitting on a caboose, 5 dudes are circling around me, So in my perspective, like I get their motives and stuff.
Yeah.
And I don't know if we put a letter into the higher ups in AA and tell them like tone it down on the welcoming package of AA, But when I got sober, I didn't really have that experience. I had a couple people that came up to me and shook my hand, welcomed me, and stuff like that, and that was cool. I'm like, and there was this my sponsor. His name was Carmine, and the only reason I picked him as a sponsor was because he looked like you. He was built like he worked out all the time. He had a car. He spoke well. He had a career. He just like emulated what I wanted. I didn't necessarily know anything on the spiritual side of him in the beginning. I saw from a surface level what he had, and I was like, okay, hey man, will you be my sponsor? His name is Carmine. And he's like, yeah. And it ended up being that he was, he got me back involved in the church and, took me through the steps and stuff like that. And it was a cool kind of experience that I had my first real experience with AA. And I don't know. I just thought that like that was something worth bringing up because I'd feel the same way if that.
No, you got to throw yourself into the deep end of the pool. Kind of related to that. I felt that same way. Like when I got my first sponsor and that sponsorship family, they were all in shape. My sponsor surfed, but in a way, and this was my own shit. Like I made myself feel alienated because I was insecure and scared, but like they all had brand new crotch rockets and they'd all be riding around town, and like I'm like, oh, we're going to Duffy's after the meeting. I'll be there 30 minutes after you on my Huffy. Right, like save me a seat. Like, so in a way I felt like less than all the time, but like I mean it kind of is what it is. You just got to keep showing up and
got to put in the reps, Ben.
Yeah,
you got to find your people too.
Yeah.
You're not going to click with everybody right away.
Yeah.
And you can't force it either. I can't tell you how many times I tried to like force relationships with people because I thought like, oh, this person had it all, or this person, has a cool group of friends. And like, at the end of the day, if you don't click with somebody, you don't click with them, man. The cool thing about modern AA is there's tons of people to talk to, at least down here in South Florida. There's a lot of options,
Yeah, you can go into any meeting and find, somebody that you can relate to on some level. There's no lack of opportunity when it comes to building community.
Yep.
If I tried building the same sober community in Pennsylvania as I have down here, I don't know if I could. I have no idea. It could be possible, but I doubt it.
We had said we were going to talk about that on last week's podcast, and we never did.
What?
With like, I think we were talking about if you want to work in treatment, move to Florida. Kind of like if you want to if you want to get sober, Move
Right.
somewhere where this is like there's a huge community in Florida. There's a huge recovery community in Texas, California. There are pockets. And I mean, the reality of the situation is like, if someone's gone that far down the barrel, dude, if you want to restart your life, you may have to move to one of these areas to get the experience that we've had. It just kind of is what it is. Like, I do at times feel bad for our clients that they're getting this experience here. And I mean, granted, it's their responsibility to acquire enough knowledge and get involved with AA on a level that they can go home regardless how big or small the town is. But like, you know, they're going home to a place where maybe the closest town is an hour in each direction. Like, there's always a part of me that's like, you know,
That's a good point.
I do ask them, I'm like, hey, you know, if this recovery thing's that important to you, would it be worth making the transition and moving somewhere like this?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you'll see people coming up, you know, making the excuse as well. If, you know, I have this and I have, you know,
I got a dog.
Yeah, you know, got a cat. I got to feed my cat.
Yeah.
And, you know.
It's funny how all those things become important.
Right.
Once,
like, yeah.
once it talks about like
they haven't been important. They haven't been
They
important.
haven't fed the cat in like 3 years.
I love it when they get to us. They're like, it's day one. They're like, I got to make it a dentist today. I'm like, dude, you haven't been to a dentist in 15 years. Like, why today?
Yeah.
Come on.
You're missing 15 of your teeth. So, Billy, I do want to talk a little bit before we wrap up, kind of what you're doing now. You know, obviously you're still employed with the same company. You're taking Ben through the training process of the bodybuilding show. A lot of our clients and young men and women, but more men, let's just call it what it is, they want to get sober. They want to change everything about them. They want to just, you know, hit the ground running, tattoos, piercings, workout 7 days a week, 5 hours a day, strict diets, this, that, and the other. Let's talk a little bit about that. Like, how would you suggest somebody that's a young man or woman that, let's call it what it is, the last 5 years they've been shooting dope, you know, they are, and let's just say they're going to stay clean, they're going to adopt this healthy lifestyle. What's a good way for somebody to approach this that's healthy, that's not spending hours in the gym? Because I think we can all agree can be detrimental too.
No,
we
absolutely.
have clients that come here. Billy and I were talking about this right before we started recording. Well, you know, part of our program here, we put emphasis on working out, on the adventure therapy stuff that we do. But we'll get clients here that will literally go to the gym 7 days a week, twice a day, spend 3 hours in there each time for a total of 6 a day. Like, and we've had to pull them in the office and be like, dude, this is not recovery. Like, so like,
we put people on gym bands.
Yeah, we have.
Can't go to the gym. If you're going to work out here with us, you know, for a half hour, 45 minutes.
So I guess, like, how did you balance that? Because obviously the gym is big for you.
Oh, yeah,
obviously you know how to get results.
Yeah.
Like, how'd you not get so carried away with it that you had no time for recovery?
Well, here's the thing. I did. So I did do those things. Not this go around. But like, I remember like when I was in jail, that's kind of where like my fitness journey started. I looked around and I was like, yo, I'm like 160 pounds and these guys are freaking huge. If like something ever happened, I'm in big trouble. So I started working out in there. And, you know, that's kind of maybe where like the quote unquote obsession started, because one, I had nothing to do all day. So when I got out, I kind of carried that with me. Where I was going a lot, man. I was going 7 days a week. I was going multiple times a day. Because in my head, just like an addict, a good addict, I thought more equals better. And that's just simply not the case. So if there's anybody who's going to start going through this, understand that more does not equal better. If anything, more starts to equal bad. Because your body can only handle so much. Especially if you're coming off of 10 years of shooting dope, you ain't been eating right, and then what, you're going to start going to the gym for 3 hours? No, it's not going to work.
And it's not sustainable.
Definitely not. And I think the problem is, I think the main issue that you guys see is burnout. So they'll do this, right? They'll go 7 days a week for 40 days straight, whatever, and then they're burnt out. And then once that's removed from your life, now what do you have? You got a whole lot of nothing. So what's left? Well, I'm going to go get high again. So I feel like if you can keep it in moderation in your life, something that can be a constant, then you don't ever lose it from your life, you know? And it makes you feel good when you do it appropriately, rather than if you burn yourself out and you start to feel like crap. I always tell people when they get sober, and this is what I always told my sponsees, is find a hobby, right? Like you need a hobby in your life, whether it's working out, fishing, you know, whatever. You got to have something that you can do to have fun. Because in my opinion, if your life is just like work meetings, I couldn't do that. Like I needed something else. But I think the ability to maybe regulate, you know, how you're spending your time is really what's going to be important. Like, don't make the gym your only hobby. Have another hobby. Have another life outside of it. It's when it becomes your everything, then that's when it's trouble. Because like I said, if you lose it, then what do you have left? You have nothing.
So give us some tangibles, because I'm thinking in my head what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this as a clip and give it, honest to God, I'm going to give this, I think we could do this, Ben. Listen, here's Billy. Billy knows what he's doing. Billy says, do this.
Yeah.
You got 2 weeks clean or 45 days clean or whatever. You want to start back in the gym. Give us some overall tangibles that somebody could, you know, they could listen to and say, okay, I can implement this and I will see results both on the fitness side and the nutrition side.
Right. Well, let's start nutrition, because, you know, everybody gains the freshman 15 when they come into treatment, right? And some people need it. Some people do need it. You know, look, when do you guys, like, I'm sure in treatment you guys give like a Publix card or something that they go and get their food with?
Take them to Walmart. And
okay, so, you know, don't spend all that on like frozen pizza and ice cream, man. You know, like I know that stuff tastes really good, but try to buy some Whole Foods with it. And like, it doesn't even have to be in the beginning. It doesn't have to be like this crazy, experiment or science to it, right? It just has to be very simple. Hey, you know, why don't you shop the outside of the stores, right? Shop where the vegetables and the fruits are. Shop where the meats are. Shop where, you know, some of the breads and stuff is fine. But just try and stay away from the frozen stuff. Try and stay away from the boxed stuff, the stuff in the middle of the store.
Right? I never heard that.
Yeah.
Shop the outside.
You never heard
shop
that?
the outside.
No, I never heard that. That makes sense.
Shop the perimeter.
Yeah, shop the perimeter.
Cool.
So like make it super simple.
Listen, dude, I go straight to the cereal aisle.
Yeah.
But anyways, I digress. Go ahead.
And look, you know, and look, man, that's not to say that like you can't have ice cream. It's to say that, like, don't eat ice cream every night. You know, like do you know? And I know the word moderation is almost like impossible for an addict to understand, especially early on. But like, just try to understand that like it doesn't have to be so extreme. And that's the other thing with the gym. Just don't make it so extreme. Go 4 days a week, man, for an hour. And see what you can get done in that time frame. There are so many workouts on like bodybuilding.com that you can do that will not last more than an hour. And I'll tell you what, if you're going for longer than an hour, and what are you even doing? You know, your workout should be intense, not long.
Right.
You know, so the length of your workouts should never go over, like, I'd say an hour and a half. And an hour and a half is like an advanced lifter, you know, because you need to be able to put out enough energy in order to make the workout effective. You're running out of energy if you're there for 3 hours. There's no way like the last 2 hours are effective at all. You're just wasting time at that point. So I feel like if you just go 4 days a week, 45 minutes to an hour, you give your all in that 45 minutes to an hour, and you eat just decent looking food, there's no way you can't make results that way. Especially being a brand new person coming into this, there's no way. You can't mess it up.
The barriers or the bar is set very low for people in this situation. And then obviously as you progress through that, then you can start, you know, tweaking things and messing with macros.
Of course.
And stuff like that.
Of course. Especially as you see that it's actually something you're going to stay interested in, then you can start investing some more of your time in it. A lot of times, like we were talking about earlier, like, you know, I didn't even know who I was for a lot of years. And sometimes people get sober and they have no clue who they are. So maybe they try working out and they give it their all for all this period of time and they end up hating it and they never go back to it, you know? And that's perfectly okay. But like, why give all your energy to something that you don't even know if you like yet? You know, some people don't work out for the love of working out. They work out for the love of looking better. And like, yeah, we do want to look better, but you should also go to the gym because you love working out.
Well, and you want to be healthy.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I think, and that's a lot of times when people do get sober, and I was one of the ones, you know, freshman 15, it was more freshman 50.
Yeah.
You know, it was Seroquel.
Yeah.
Dude, DiGiorno pizzas, Ben and Jerry's ice cream,
Yeah.
you know, and I entered into treatment at 185 and I entered into treatment at 185 and roughly about 6 months later, I was at 230, 235. And it was like literally just pizza, frozen pizza, ice cream, stuff like that. But what I was getting at is, again, you put down the drink and the drug, and a lot of times people will utilize food to kind of fill that.
Absolutely.
You know, it tastes good. It fills that, you know, I need something to look forward to. And damn it, Ben and Jerry's is something to look forward to, coupled with a triple meat DiGiorno pizza. And it's funny, but it is the absolute
the
truth.
Specificity.
Yeah.
It's the twinkle in his eye that gets me.
I'm just like, hello. You know, this is what I've been, and sucking down coffee all day.
Yeah.
No water, nothing.
Yeah.
And this is a real thing that we see with clients is no water consumption, coffee, energy drinks, and frozen food, you know, throughout the day or in the evening.
Uber Eats has made this way worse.
Uber Eats.
Oh my God.
So now you're eating ultra processed food. You're eating way too many calories, trying to offset it, hours at the gym, and you're broke. Because it costs a fortune. A $12 meal Uber Eats probably costs $24 by the time delivery fee, tip, you know? So again, it's not something, and this is, I think, where a lot of people miss the mark when getting sober is they won't factor this part in. Like you have the people, this is interesting because I think you have the people that want nothing to do with it, working out, lifestyle change, healthy eating, stuff like that. And then you have the people that
We're
are
just
like
balls in,
balls to the wall.
Yes.
You know, I'm buying.
Yes. What we need is here in the middle.
We need in the middle.
We need in the middle. And look, that's really difficult. And I understand. It's hard because I think if people understood the connection to the behavior and their alcoholism, maybe it would wake them up a little bit. But it's so hard to make that connection early on. So hard to see, well, this really is my alcoholic behavior, just in a different form. You know, they don't see it that way. A lot of people, when they get sober, they see alcoholism as just drinking, like we were talking about earlier. And they don't understand that alcoholism is a behavior. And I can put that shit on anything, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
What's that saying? My addiction is more. Is that what people say?
Yeah. Like I'm addicted to more.
Yeah. What I loved about what was said is more is not necessarily better. Like another example of that with the gym. Not long ago, we had a client who, working out at the gym we sent him to that you're familiar with, loaded up the hack squat with as many weights.
Oh my
as
gosh!
Oh man! Posted it on Facebook, and thank God he did. Because when I saw this video, it was at the point where I pulled him in the office, dude. I was like, dude, you're literally going to break your back and permanently injure yourself.
Is this the person that was here earlier today?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, and he's doing great. He really is. Like he's toned it down. Like
good.
Because I was like, dude, you just got into working out. You are seriously going to injure yourself. It was ugly.
Yeah.
Like
people always want to be bigger than their britches, man. You know, they always want to be further along than they really are. And like, you know, one analogy that I love with working out and why I think it pairs so well with sobriety is because there's no such thing as instant results with it. You can't cheat it, dude. You cannot cheat it. You cannot substitute time. It just doesn't exist. I can play with diets. I can play with supplements. I can play with workouts. And I can maybe speed results up a little bit. But it's not like I can go to somebody and be like, if you do X, Y, and Z, you'll be jacked in 30 days. It doesn't work that way. And that's how sobriety is too, right? Like you don't just have this awakening in 30 days. It takes time. It takes experience. You got to live it. You got to do it. So I find that like working out just aligns so well with the same values. And I think that some people, when they start doing it and they don't get the results right away, they toss it away. I'm done with it.
Same with sobriety.
Yeah, same with sobriety.
Now I have my rebuttal for you.
What?
Tom keeps going to me, when you're competing, there's no end in sight. Like, I ain't gonna lie, when I first got picked up Billy to coach me, it's like I was like, yeah, I'll probably, train for 6 weeks and then 12 weeks out. Here we he's laughing.
Well, I keep asking Ben. I do. I'm like,
He'll
dude.
do it when he's ready.
So that goes hand in hand with sobriety.
Do it when you're
Thank
ready.
you. I have a rebuttal now.
Yeah.
Well, I want to know more about this, but off camera. Dude, I think it's definitely something that needs to be focused on more. The only other thing, and we're running short on time. It doesn't have to be going in and busting your ass in the gym, like weightlifting, yada, yada, yada. Find something. I tell people, just go outside and walk.
Yeah.
Start somewhere. I don't care if it's Pilates, yoga, Orange Theory, whatever the case is, do something. Doesn't have to be going into the gym and loading up the hack squat with a bunch of 45-pound plates. Because at that point, that's all about ego. You're not doing this because you want to be healthy. You want to do it because you want to impress the girls that are in there that are, so on and so forth. Find something that you can relatively enjoy, or that isn't super stressful. Like I don't ever, and this is truth, I don't go into the gym. Sometimes I do when I'm having a bad day, but generally when I walk into either my garage or the gym downstairs, I want to be there. It's not a chore for me to be there. And I think if
it should bring happiness.
Right.
It should bring happiness.
Yeah. And there is a point of diminishing return.
Yeah.
Right there, because I wanted to hit one more point on that. More is not better. The same can go for like meetings and recovery as well.
Oh yeah.
I've met guys that they get into recovery. You're right there, Tom. Tom's choking. Guys get into recovery and they literally go to like 3 meetings a day.
Oh, I've seen it.
And they come marching back to me and they're like, Ben, you'll be so proud of me. I've gone to 3 meetings a day for the last week. And I'm like, ooh, that's not good either.
Yeah.
So not only with the fitness stuff, but on the other, the recovery side.
Super sober, like, oh, look at me.
Yeah.
And then you were talking about
the book.
Yeah.
Then you were talking about ego, like, because there are.
It's an ego thing too. Absolutely.
There are old guys, old timers in meetings that are retired,
right?
Got nothing else going on.
Yeah,
they're like, I go to 3 meetings a day, and the newcomer hears that, and they're
like, well, I got to do that. Yeah.
Oh,
well, and then you have the spirituality component of that people believe inside the rooms that if you only believe, if you have to believe in this certain faith,
right?
In order for this to work for you. So, I mean, there is a lot of, I'm not going to cuss on here, but effery inside the rooms of AA, and being able to navigate that and, sticking with people that like, look, I'm very open about, AA is not my life. Like AA contributes to my life.
It's a huge part of it.
It's a huge part of it, but it's not my end all be all.
Right.
I go to my meeting on Wednesday nights. We smoke a cigar. We talk AA. I enjoy it. So
I think a lot of this boils down to is like people like making things their identity instead of actually having an identity.
Right.
Like they make AA their identity. They make working out their identity. They make, fishing their identity. You can almost see it. If you follow someone's social media page, for example, you can see kind of like what they're making their identity as, right? I see that a lot. And it's like, you should do all of these things, but they shouldn't be who you are. There shouldn't be any like replacement for Billy. I'm always going to be Billy. Billy does these things, but Billy, I'm not those things. My existence isn't those things.
It almost becomes like an idolatry to some point.
Yeah.
You start worshiping at the altar of the squat rack.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like, okay, bro.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
So Billy's Instagram, that's actually a good example. His Instagram is pretty entertaining. Like, and there's a good mix on it. You would think it would be
I keep it blended, man. Because you know what? I'm not just working out.
Yeah.
Like
he's reviewing Crocs.
Yeah.
He's doing
I've never
all kinds of stuff.
Well, just being on, I don't think I've ever seen like one of your Instagram stories anyway, is you actually doing a workout, like maybe like a pose or whatever, to show your body fat percentage or whatever. And I'm like, well, yeah, he's still huge. I don't know what I'm looking at. You know what I mean? But a lot of it is like the thing with the spoons now and your daughters and the Disney.
Those damn spoons.
Like you're a family oriented person who has balance in his life.
Right.
And to somebody that looks at you that doesn't know who
they
you
would
are.
immediately assume that I spend 6 hours a day in the gym every day.
Yeah, like this is
Yeah.
all. Look at this guy. Yeah, if I
It's-
had all
it's
the time in the world, you know.
It's 4 hours a week for those who are wondering. I spend 4 hours a week in the gym. That's it.
Really? See, even me, I'm like, I spend 4 hours a week in the gym. I'm like, but it's my nutrition.
That's the killer, man.
It is.
See, that's where I'm 100%. You won't catch me slipping on that.
Dude, I see some of those sauces. I feel like if I have some of those sauces too,
Bro, I can hook you up. The sauce. Shout out to Flavor Gang, by the way.
Flavor Gang.
Flavor Gang
all right,
sauces.
yeah.
Amazing.
Maybe they'll hook us up
Amazing.
with a
no
free
calories.
You
No
know how many
calories.
times I've gone on that website and not hit order?
Bro, you just got to do it. So
right.
I did the same thing for like 2 years because I'm like, $15 for a sauce? These guys are out of their freaking mind. And one day I was just like, you know what? I'm just going to buy it. And I have never looked back. I've never looked back.
That might be the answer, Ben. Flavor Gang. Listen, I see some of the stuff. I'm like, dude, I don't know how you're eating 4 English muffins and, like honey and, peanut butter. I'm like, well, you got a goal in mind. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So, well, listen, Billy, I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me, guys.
It was fun. Ben, you got any final thoughts?
No, it was fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that.
Yeah, we'll have to have you come on again.
Yeah, no problem. Anytime.
Sweet. All right. That is it for this episode of Real Recovery Talk in the End. If you have any comments, questions, or concerns, you could always reach out to us. Tom at realrecoverytalk.com. Ben at realrecoverytalk.com. And I will say this, if you have, or if you want or need any sort of coaching per se, you want to maybe lose a little bit of the freshman 15 or the 2023 2022 22 pounds that you gained, that fluff, you call Billy.
I'm your guy. Billy G _fit on Instagram. Just shoot me a DM.
He's going to do it. And he's, maybe I'll do the journey with you. That is it. We will see y'all later.